Okay, we're live.
Or is it pre-recorded?
They'll never know. They will never know.
Until we start flipping up comments. Yeah, we're alive, guys. We're back after a pre-recorded episode last week, best we could do. We are back. Lots of market news to talk about as always. If you're new to the channel or you need a reminder of how it works when we're live, because it's been a couple of weeks, we'll typically get to the comments at the end. We'll do a rapid fire question and answer period. Though if your questions do pertain to what we're discussing tonight, we're glad to take those live too. Tevis, how are you doing?
I am doing very well. I was telling a friend of mine today the benefits of being in this time zone is that I like as pertains to the stock market is that I can be the first to find out when news come out at 6 a.m. like Elon buying all these shares. I basically found out way before everybody else found out because it was like 6 a.m. when the 4 and 4s dropped. And yeah, like there's not a lot of benefits because this is my midnight. And after this live stream, I'm going to go to bed. So if there's news that drops at 9 p.m. your time, I'm screwed. But luckily the markets are closed then. And so it's kind of cool because there's been some morning news that's been dropping recently.
Yeah, it's rare. I think it's more common on Mondays after a weekend when news drops like that early. And that was one where I was like, "Wait, what's happening to Tesla?" Because I got the I woke up at like randomly, like way earlier than I should have, and I was like, "Why is Tesla moving so much again?" And yeah, insider buys, man. Insider buys are not just it, but it's a big part of this too. So. I will share this since you shared it with me. So it looks like I found it. No, just kidding. I think everybody's aware of this too. At least it's a Tesla shareholder. Elon Musk bought 2.56 million of Tesla shares in surprise Form 4 filing worth over $1 billion. Of course, the stock is up a lot more than the that little bit that it was today. Well, it is up 3.57% today. But if we look at where it's been, we were at one point with Tesla down over 40%, 43 something percent. And yes, Tesla may be underperforming the S&P 500 year to date, but clawing back from this and coming back basically to positive is actually really strong. So first, Tevis, what was your raw reaction to this insider buy by Elon Musk?
I was shocked, man, because this is the first time he's purchased on the open market since 2020. And obviously that signals some level of bullishness, although I have a hypothesis as to why this makes sense, but it was very shocking. My first thought was, okay, he's absolutely doing this just to burn shorts. But then my second and more nuanced thought was whether he could vote those shares in the upcoming compensation package, because that vote is coming up next month, something like this. And so I'd spend $1 billion on the off chance that I get $1 trillion if I execute really well.
Honestly, yeah, that's I don't know that it'll be close. I think that this will be, like every package before. I've not really seen actually a lot of dissent from people that hold Tesla. The Jeremys of the world are, laughing, but they don't own any, so they can't vote. You don't own it, you don't vote. My voting privilege is very small. My position's small. You own as many shares as Musk, or pretty close?
Not anymore. I trimmed a whole bunch, remember?
Yeah,
I think
he
right
bought
now,
these. He bought these basically to make up for you selling 2.56 million shares, right?
Yeah, man. Somebody was gonna degen into BMNR and other names, so somebody has to do it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it is just kind of shocking that it'd be back in the 400s, especially given, there's been a lot of issues and trouble with Tesla. But yeah, that's so for those that are maybe newer to the markets, there are a lot of stock-based compensation, RSUs, PSUs that are granted based on performance. Of course, that's Elon Musk's future pay package if that is voted on. This is just him going out and saying, you know what, I've got $1 billion. I'm going to put it on Tesla. And
which,
him
like,
just 5 years.
we got to talk about that compensation pack. We haven't had a bootleg in because we did the pre-recorded and the news dropped like days later.
Yeah.
So we talk about that as well. But let me throw up a post here, and I want you to react to this. Somebody put together 32 reasons why I keep buying more and more Tesla stock. And some of these reasons you obviously know. Some of them are many years into the future, but Optimus, Robotaxi, FSD, affordable EV. Like some of these are generic, and some of these are like super specific. Largest supercharging network, cause positive cash flow generation. They're expanding worldwide, 6 gigafactories, India expansion, Tesla insurance service, AI chip, Tesla diner. I feel like they're running out of things to say. Compensation package is one of them, and Elon's motivation, coincidentally, right beside that. And it's interesting, right? Because what we've been talking about has been what the narrative is on Tesla and how there's two parts, right? I've said this in previous episodes. I said there's the financials and there's the narrative, there's the growth story, and Tesla largely trades on the growth story. And the fact of the matter is that there's not really any major catalysts on the horizon, other than, I guess, if I had to pick and choose, I would say, well, FSD expanding into more geographies is something to look forward to for the rest of this year. Maybe a new announcement around Optimus, what version 3 looks like. But other than that, mass production of Optimus and mass expansion of FSD is all coming into the next year. And so when you think about it from that perspective, like this second half of 25 has a weaker growth story. And this second half of 25 has a weaker financial profile until it ramps back up in 26. And so this was supposed to be a lull period. And now I think the thing that's like the band-aid holding it over for the next 6 months is going to be this compensation package and Elon going back into actually, having Tesla as his biggest priority, right? And so it really all hinges on that vote. If that vote doesn't go his way, that's going to be disastrous. But I think it will.
Yeah, I actually need to find. I know that we've shared it. Oh, here we go. I actually found one version of this. Let me throw this up just so we can. Since we didn't discuss the package, this is last week's news. But hey, we're covering last week's news now. So congratulations. No, so this is one of those things that was offered. There's been a lot of comments back and forth on this, but in essence, there is a milestone for market cap size, which means for shareholders that you made out well, there is going to be some dilution. They do have stock-based compensation as well, but still, this is meaningful for shareholders. But we don't really want Tesla as investors just to be a meme stock trading only on narrative. It does trade very much on a narrative, but we also want some operational milestones. And so the way that this works is you compare any market value milestone with any operational milestone. So for instance, he doesn't have to get to 400 billion adjusted EBITDA for the $6.5 trillion. He just, he needs to hit this once. So this number right here, by the way, is shocking, and it's going to be very challenging. I think 1 million robots delivered. I think that'll be not maybe the easiest thing. 10 million active full self. Okay, actually, let me ask you this, Tevis. There's some hard ones on there. None of these. Well, there's a few. Like I think 50 billion adjusted EBITDA. That's maybe not that bad of a target. But what do you think is the hardest operational milestone here?
I mean, I think 400 billion adjusted EBITDA is kind of crazy to me. I don't like, I think the vehicles and the FSD, like those seem fairly normal because you're going from one to many. But 1 million robots, you're going from 0 to 1 from a production line perspective. And I think 1 million robotaxis in commercial operation is not going to be like, relatively speaking to the rest of these, super crazy because again, like they can produce the cars. They've reached a certain level of efficiency when they're producing the vehicles. I think the robots, to reach 1 million robots is going to be very difficult because you have to reconstruct the entire production line process. You have to go through that same procedure that they went through with the cars, right? Like, how do we optimize the pieces instead of having 20 pieces for, an elbow, let's say? How do we do it in 10? How do we do it in 5? And the answer to this, which many people who are newer to Tesla might forget about, was, the whole gigacasting process and the single cast. And that was large. Like I remember watching, like what's his Sandy Munro back in like 2020, 2021, and he was deconstructing the newer models, and they would find like each newer model had like 10 rivets less than the previous model because they were just streamlining things. They were saying, okay, can I do it? I have it in 6 bolts right now. Can I do it in 4? Can I do it in 3? Like, what is the optimal, process? And Elon used to call this a game of pennies because they would save a couple pennies here, a couple pennies there, and that's how they would essentially eke out their profit margin. Now, you have to do that entire process all over again for the robot, and it's arguably harder in many areas, right? Like if you think about the fine motor skills and the dexterity required for these units. Yes, they're smaller in terms of the raw resources required. You can build maybe 5 robots with the same scrap metals and the pieces that you would need to build one car, but the assembly line procedure is completely from scratch. And so I think operationally speaking, that's going to be one of the harder, if not the hardest ones.
Yeah, I agree with you, Shu. It's a new product line, new everything. And they are making them, but making them at scale is a hard part. Now, going back to that list of the reasons to buy, I think most of that's just fluff and looking for like, hey, let me find 33 and probably go into Chat GPT or Grok from extra ideas once you hit about 15. But Tesla's ability to actually scale, Tesla's vertical integration, are real advantages and real reasons to buy. I'm actually kind of surprised by the share price, but I mean, insider buys are hugely bullish. As it says, there's many reasons to sell. There's just one reason to buy. So insider sales never really concern me unless it's just a whole lot that's just not planned. Then I might have some concerns. But yeah, it's always bullish no matter how you slice it. Elon Musk is not throwing $1 billion into Tesla because he hates money. Now, I don't think he's motivated by money. So this sales package, I think maybe bulls are overly optimistic regarding this fixing his attention on Tesla. I know that the shareholders, not the shareholders, but the board themselves have basically encouraged him or warned him from engaging in too much political activity as well. But I think that the goal here that might keep him at least a little bit focused on Tesla. I don't think he's going to have, mostly be focused on Tesla, which is a shame. Is going to be the fact that he'll actually control more than 25% of the company. I believe the previous estimate was 28.5%. Now with the additional shares he has, it puts him closer to 30%. So yeah, we'll have to see. But I don't hate this at all. I mean, like as a shareholder, like even with my few shares, if we go to 8.5 trillion in market cap, we're doing 400 billion in adjusted EBITDA. Those few shares are going to be very nice. But so I'm not opposed. I'm over in favor. I just don't know that it's going to accomplish the purpose of what many people think. Did you?
Yeah, I mean, look, it has to pass first, Roy. And
I don't think
I'm,
that's.
I'm sure it will pass. I don't think there's going to be a problem there, but it's still a level of uncertainty with it passing in the first place, the vote, and then there's a whole lot of execution from here until there.
Yeah, they absolutely have to execute and at a much higher level. So quarter 3, of course, we know is going to be pretty good. Quarter 4 will be absolutely abysmal because that's the first quarter without any EV tax credit at all. So it's a challenge.
One thing I will say is it's going to be very interesting because once this plan is in place, assuming it's passed, is Elon, like this is the green light that Elon needs to merge all of his companies together. And they had a proposal around Tesla taking an investment into XAI because essentially you want to have the Grok software layer on the Optimus hardware exterior to make an actual viable product for the mass market, whether it's the car or whether it's the bot. I think the Grok software layer integrated in a very deep way is going to be invaluable to the aggregate value of XAI plus Tesla together. So I think this is like, if I were him, and I'm sure I think he has talked about this publicly, but like what he said is, hey, he doesn't feel comfortable building this like next gen revolutionary AI in Tesla unless he has a big percentage. So, assuming this vote were to not go his way, or assuming he did not have this pay package, like there's no incentive for him to ever, merge Grok. However seamless the merge might be, and however amazing the aggregate benefits might be, now it gives him a green light to do so. And so I think you're going to see an acceleration in Tesla the moment that this thing passes, because like the proof is in the pudding in terms of him unlocking more shares. And so he's going to go all out for achieving that ultimate purpose of these synergies across his companies.
Yeah, if anyone succeeds, as far as Optimus, like the thing is, Tesla too is the only company that's public that you have actually exposure to humanoid robots. So we'll have to see. But robotaxis, of course, is something that's ramping up too. Now, while we were in Vegas, this launched, and I was actually very pleasantly surprised by the market's reaction. Usually, in a stock that I or we hold, like HIMS, for instance, when Amazon launches a product or launches a new product line, that stock tanks. You're like, oh man, Amazon's going to crush it. But I mean, if you look at a lot of Amazon launches, most of them are failures and some of them are wild successes. So Amazon announced Zook or launched Zook in Las Vegas on the Strip. They were like a mile away from where we were. And so Evan and I were like, hey, let's go and check this out. And their app was non-functional. I don't know if it was just because demand or what, but it was a mess. So yeah, we tried it. We wanted to try it and check it out. Are you concerned about robotaxis? I already know your answer, but with Amazon entering here.
No, I mean, look, man, like you have to, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but like you have to think about all the vehicles that are currently in circulation right now and what percentage of those vehicles could and will in the future be replaced by robotaxis. And you're going to come to a staggering number. And you're going to realize that, hey, look, in order for it to be a viable market, there needs to be multiple players. Every single market that's been worth capturing, there's been multiple players capturing it. We've seen HIMS, Amazon's gone into there. You've seen Duolingo, Google's gone into there. You've seen all of these players are fighting for the same market share. Why? Because they're the biggest markets to go after. And so if you're talking about a revolutionary paradigm shift in terms of how people interact with logistics, you're going to have more than Tesla playing in that space. You're going to have Amazon, you're going to have Rivian, you're going to have you can have a Waymo, all of them, right?
Yeah, but let me push back on that a little bit. There are a few dozen of these though on the Vegas Strip. Like that's huge, and they're scaling. I'm just kidding. It's no. I really think that this is kind of like Blue Origin versus SpaceX. Amazon does not, and I know Blue Origin is not technically an Amazon company, but it is a Jeff Bezos company. Bezos is an amazing leader, CEO. Amazon is still well run under Jassy. Amazon might get a foothold here, but like really the main people that are being displaced are, the old way of doing things. Drivers, taxi drivers, Uber, Lyft, those sort of things. Uber, I think, will be okay because they are diversified and they are, getting part of the autonomous vehicle infrastructure. But I mean, like the nice thing about this is like really this. Yeah, we're going to get there. The nice thing about this is as Zooks or as Waymo or as Tesla Robotaxi or as AV Rider or whoever else, there's a bunch of them out there, end up doing well, getting regulatory approval. That makes it easier for the next guy to also get regulatory approval and know exactly what milestones need to be achieved. And it also is really nice for Tesla too, because I know in California, they hate Elon Musk as far as, a lot of the politicians that are in control there. And I think that they will do everything that they can to give regulatory approval to Tesla. But the problem is, once you get to a certain point, you've granted it for Waymo, you start granting it for Zooks, you grant it for these others, and Tesla is doing the exact same thing. All that means is Elon Musk and Tesla sue California, they win, and then they're granted approval and a bunch of money as well. So it's just a matter of it might slow things down in California or not, but like another entrant in the market, yeah, is a really good thing. So they will be just fine. Now, I'm not counting on robotaxi.
You bring up a really interesting.
Go ahead.
sorry, I don't know if I'm stuck or you're stuck, but I think you bring up a really interesting point in that the price is so much lower and competitive in robo taxis that you can vote with your wallet. Because if I was, let's say, politically disaligned to Tesla or Elon's politics or whatever, and I wanted to vote with my wallet, and Tesla's really like the only real game in town. Actually, I did see a BYD here today, which is kind of crazy that I'm seeing BYDs in Europe. It looked cool. Anyways, my point is like you're not going to make a massive $60,000 purchase just because you are not aligned with somebody's politics. However, if it's like Uber versus Lyft and they both cost 20 bucks, you absolutely will make that decision because it's such a small price point that it's worth it, you know, for you to pay a dollar or $2 extra to even have the mental reprieve of saying I'm doing something aligned. So that's kind of an interesting point that I wasn't thinking about before.
So, anything else Tesla? Otherwise, we could pivot to our second topic here. And there's a lot of news, a lot of chatter. I think that those are the main highlights there. Let me ask you this before we move on, and we'll talk BMNR. You saw the news. You saw it, pretty early. Did you end up buying any more Tesla, or you already have a sizable position? Did you just stay the same?
I might have bought, yeah, just 100 shares.
Just it's a
but
billionaire.
But no, stop. That's a short-term position. I mean, well, I don't know. We'll see. If I'm gonna do covered calls on that, and if it gets called, it gets called. But I bought that at like 6 a.m. I guess your time, and it was like noon my time. As soon as the news came out, basically, I was like buying it, and I think I got it at like 4:14 or something, 4:13, and it fell intraday, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I don't know. I bought it more as the premiums are going to be juiced on this, and then I can flip it, and then if it keeps running, then I'm fine with that too.
All right. So Bitmine, we have some news that came out earlier today, and one of the things I really like about this position is that they give us frequent updates. They're only required to do it once a quarter. They could be very clandestine, but instead they tell us a lot more as well. So, that's not it. Let me pull that one up. Here we go. If you would share this, Tevis.
Yeah.
All right. So the main piece of news, and there you can go to the PR Newswire as well for this, basically showing what they have as far as their NAV or MNAV. So, of course, they still have a good chunk of cash. This is their investment of what it looks like for their 8Co stake, which, when you invest in a company like that, you're not typically going to just flip it. And we do need to talk about 8Co as well, because this, I know, was last week's news, but we didn't have a chance to talk about it live. Of course, they own some Bitcoin as well directly, and a whole bunch of Ethereum as well. So we're at 10.771 billion in total crypto and moonshots. And of course, they went through, talked about the thesis, talked about how liquid this stock is, that it's one of the most liquid stocks there, number 28 by 5-day average volume. Any surprises for what came out here with Bitmine, and has your mindset towards this position changed at all, Tevis?
Yeah, so I made some more content around Bitmine and more bullish on it. Like as I read about the thought process behind getting to that 5% target, as you like, you're aware with the 5%, like they want to hold 5% of the supply essentially, and they're like 30% along the way, 35% along the way. They still have a lot more to accumulate to get to that target. And so I think that paired with all the macro news, like I saw some news around PayPal and on the Ethereum network. I saw some news around MasterCard on the Ethereum network. And so that made me really bullish. I actually made one other move. I actually haven't posted about this yet, so I don't know if I should talk about it. But
breaking news.
Yeah,
go for it. Share it.
I swapped my Solana for ETH. So now I don't own any Sol, and all I own is ETH and Bitcoin. But I also bought a whole ton of BMNR, and I wrote more cash secured puts today. So I bought on the open market. I have more cash secured puts, and then I also have calls for BMNR for November for 55, and then I also have January ones for 60. So very bullish. I think that the thesis makes sense. I think how Tom Lee describes it makes sense, and I think the staking piece as well is something that gives it an advantage over like something like MicroStrategy, for example, because you can just stake, or BMNR can just stake, and then they can have more flexibility to maneuver accordingly. So really bullish on the prospect there. I know Elijah was thinking about also getting into BMNR, and he was asking me about it, and I basically said, look, there's seasonality going into the end of the year. The technicals are such that I think that this thing is looking good from a technical pattern perspective, but it's also solid fundamentally as a macro play on the utility of the Ethereum network, and the fact that now you have Tom Lee as a spokesperson who has deep network connections in institutional hedge fund managers and basically into Wall Street. That's going to push for that internally. And the more of these people flip, then obviously you're going to see the more adoption across the board. I think that these larger players want more established networks that have minimal downtime, and Ethereum provides that. Solana, sure, is still an option, and I think it's going to be a very successful option as well. But realistically speaking, like if you look at the order of events from a awareness perspective, like Bitcoin was the first one where people were saying, oh, it's digital gold, and they were framing it according, like in terms that traditional boomers, let's say, would understand, traditional finance would understand. And now Ethereum is the second one. You're seeing it with all these Ethereum ETFs that are coming out. You're seeing it with all of the institutional volume that's flowing into Ethereum. And now you're seeing all of the rails essentially starting to be built, all the layer twos starting to pop up. So I'm bullish. My main fear, and I think somebody asked it, I didn't bookmark it. I should start bookmarking these questions.
Yeah, man,
I'm
get with
rusty.
it.
Yeah. My main fear is that, like, okay, crypto has big seasonality, and BMNR is a leveraged bet.
Yes.
So I'm happy to own that ETH through crypto winters. I don't know how happy I would be to own call options on BMNR through crypto winters, or even BMNR itself, right? So I guess that's where the ambiguity is in my mind right now. But I'm really bullish from now until the end of the year into where this could go, regardless of Tom Lee's price targets. Like Tom Lee's, Ethereum is going to double by Christmas price target. Like that's like the sky to me, right? Like that's so out there. I don't think Ethereum is going to go to 10K by Christmas. If it
No.
does, then like absolutely, I'll be happy to get paid on that one. But if
Yeah.
Ethereum stays at 5K, I think its BMNR is still higher as a result of the accumulation and as a result of the adoption. And every increment of 1,000 or 100 that Ethereum goes up, like it's just all the better because the underlying is going up as well.
Yeah. So first, Tevis, let me make sure I heard this correctly. That you said that you have no soul. So Tevis is soulless.
Yes,
All right.
Solanaless.
Oh, Solanaless. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I do have some soul, and it's a decent cryptocurrency. There will be things that are built on it.
I saw that red here. I wouldn't go that far.
But and I still have some Solana, but I have a lot more Ethereum than Solana. Ethereum, beyond what you said with Ethereum, and this, we have longer videos, that break down like the thesis, basically why Ethereum, and then why BMNR we'll talk about in just a second. Other than it being a leverage bet, it's that uptime is not just important; it's hugely significant. Institutions that are looking to build on chain, the reliability and the safety is actually the most important thing. If you gave them like, hey, this is completely free, we're not going to charge you anything, you just use it and it's instant, but it goes down like once every 3 months, that's not good enough for payments. That's not good enough for institutions at all. They want near to 100% uptime, which Ethereum delivers. The other thing that you didn't highlight there, and I know that you're aware of this, but just this is for people that are tuning in, is the decentralized aspect of Ethereum. Solana claims to be decentralized. Bulls say that it is. And it's, maybe I won't say that. Well, I will. Why not? Solana used to be, especially in the previous cycle, a bit of a cult. Of course, part of that was that the price rose very quickly, and it did a lot of things right as far as a chain. But Solana bulls, like one thing that cults do oftentimes is redefine words with a uncommon definition that's different than what everybody else talks about, and that is centralization. It's very centralized, not as extremely so as some others, but that poses risk, because if you have just several different nodes instead of it being spread off of a massive amount, then there is more risk. Now, that's one of the things that's going to be interesting about this Ethereum play is, as there are more and more Ethereum treasuries, and there's of course SBET, there's BMNR, there's ETHZilla, there's a whole bunch out there. There's actually more centralization happening, but still it's far less centralized in Solana. Now, the other thing that I thought was really interesting, and this isn't related to the press release, is, you know, the guys and I went to the Robinhood Summit in Vegas, and I made a post on this, but the number one most discussed stock, and it's probably in part my own fault, Batty there too was spreading the good news of BMNR in the comments, but was BMNR. Like by far, in not every conversation went this way, but most started with, I'm not a crypto guy or gal, but I bought BMNR or I'm in BMNR. And they would give their reason, like Ethereum provides real value. Tom Lee is the GOAT, and I want to make money. So that's a very simple thesis, but I mean, it kind of works. Ethereum does provide real value. This is a Euro stablecoin. Stablecoins have to be built in a layer one. There are other solutions out there, but more than half of the stablecoins in the world are built in Ethereum. Most start there as well. There's more there's a larger developer community there. There's all sorts of different protocols built and centered around it. And there's a lot of interoperability built around the Ethereum chain with other chains as well, if developers or companies want to use that too. So it's basically the perfect positioning if you want to take advantage of stablecoins. So let me ask you this, Tevis, because you might have a little bit different answer. Well, actually, first, we got to throw up this here. My apologies. I remember that you. Oh, no. Do you have your little. Well, you can throw this up. That's fine. So Chris Patel joined, and he said that I'm the Pope now of BMNR. So yay me. And you created a little video that goes along with that using Grok. So, which I don't know where that is. I couldn't find that. But yeah, no, it is. It kind of feels like a secret. I was like, man, we need a secret handshake here in Vegas or something. But like literally every other conversation that I had was about BMNR. I'm like, okay, that's kind of a little bit spooky, but you know, it's one of those things, at least for me, that I understood going into this year. This is a year of stablecoin. It's going to do very, very well. And I didn't know exactly. I had some ideas, but I didn't know exactly how to trade up on that. And this is one of those obvious things where when Tom Lee put the thesis out there, it took me a little bit, but I was like, okay, you're a stablecoin, has to be built on something. Ethereum is there. And of course, all the reasons why we enumerated, which he did such a good job of explaining. I'm like, okay, this makes sense. So why BMNR and not just Ethereum then, Tevis?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, thank you to Brock for the memberships. Brock was a massive reason, Roy, if you remember, for us to get into BMNR, because Brock ponied up $100 if we make a video talking about BMNR. And then we did that after hours video talking about it, which got the both of us into it. So thank you, Brock. Very much appreciated, sir. Look, I think that it's interesting because BMNR right now is a sign of how I perceive the market in the current stage that we're in the sense that you have something that is highly speculative. Well, maybe less highly speculative than it was 5 years ago, but still, relatively speaking, speculative because it's not a company, it's like a cryptocurrency and building on top of a crypto stack. So we have that. Well, where's my camera? We have that. And then on top of that, you have a very outspoken spokesperson in Tom Lee that's largely been proven right as a result of this bull market that we've been having. He's been the most spot on analyst on the street because his price target, he's like a perma bull. His price targets are like higher, and so you have those two things, and then you have this massive volatility in a leveraged play, and that's something that can make millionaires overnight. It can also completely destroy your portfolio overnight. But we are in that part of the cycle right now where it's like the former, not the latter. And I think that why BMNR versus Ethereum, I mean, Tom Lee answered this question. I don't know if you saw that clip, Roy, but basically, I made a video about this a couple of days ago, and I said, basically, because we're in that part of the cycle, and because I'm bullish on Ethereum into the end of the year, then I am willing, personally, everybody does their own homework, but personally, I'm willing to take that outsized risk of going into a leveraged position because I get more out of it as a result. Now, if you were to ask me, hey, Tev, like, what would you rather hold for the next 5 years, BMNR or Ethereum? It would be a more nuanced, conversation. Maybe it might still be BMNR because, Tom Lee's entire thesis around this is that the main metric that we should be looking out for is we should be looking out for the Ethereum per share that is held. And as a result of BMNR consistently buying more Ethereum, you're better off buying BMNR than you are buying the Ethereum underlying. However, if we go into a crypto winter, I mean, I could very easily make an argument that you're probably safer buying the Ethereum than you are buying BMNR.
Yes.
And so I think BMNR for me right now is something that I definitely want to be in for the next couple of months. And I think it's going to go much higher than this for the next couple of months. Next couple of years, I don't know, man. I'm not so confident that I want to be into it for that period of time.
Yeah, so MicroStrategy is probably the greatest parallel. And I was looking for Lee's post on this. I know he did this before, but in essence, anyone that's been following that, MicroStrategy has outperformed significantly so Bitcoin's return. You made good money on Bitcoin if you were investing in 2023. You made excellent money if you're investing in MicroStrategy. And there was a point in the bear cycle that, and actually even early in the bull cycle, that MicroStrategy was trading under its net assets under value, net asset value rather. His point is like basically this can be the same thing. Now, the reason why, and there's a really good question actually that I saw just a moment ago, had a bunch of names: TSLA, SBET. Sorry, I don't remember who. Yeah, there you go, BL. That was an excellent question. This part I think is a little bit counterintuitive, and it's something that when I got this, I'm like, okay, yes, I'm getting some BMNR. Now I have actually less Ethereum now than BMNR because I basically, except for just a tiny bit for IPOs, all the rest of my swing portfolio is all BMNR, all of it. I've got vertical spreads, I've got shares, I've sold cash secured puts. I've got some that I haven't even sold covered calls against because I've got it over 4 different portfolios and they don't all add up to $100. So why this? I think that BMNR has an advantage that is counterintuitive. Usually for stocks, if you have companies that are doing relatively the same thing, and it's the same strategy for each of these guys, right? To use basically their ability, because they're a publicly traded company, to sell, and as a result, as they're selling their own shares, as they're diluting, it's not dilutive if they're doing that above the MNAV. And so this, Tom Lee talks about this as well. It's increasing the amount of Ethereum per shareholder, which means dilution is actually not dilutive. So in this regard, out of these, and there's also more than just BMNR, SBET, BTBT, ETHZilla, ETHM, the vehicle that you think is going to be most efficient as far as trading overvalued on a consistent basis is going to have a substantial advantage because they can sell their overpriced stock and end up buying a bunch of Ethereum, hitting that 5% much earlier. And of course, part of the strategy is also buying some of the undervalued that are trading well under their NAV. And that's at a later date for close to, the actual price of Ethereum. They're not going to rip them off or anything. They'll want the Ethereum itself. So what's going to happen in this industry and space is a lot of consolidation. Now, BMNR, I think, is going to be able to trade consistently, not all the time, and especially if we get into a crypto winter, but over their NAV, simply because of Tom Lee and also because of retail's presence. It being very liquid means that there's a lot of speculation going both ways. Tom Lee is out there spreading the good news, of course, among retail people, but also among institutions as well. And then the last thing is BMNR is the second largest of these treasuries. And institutions want to be in some of these things. A lot of them cannot invest directly into cryptocurrency. Now, some will, like Peter Thiel is behind ETHZilla, so there'll be some in ETHZilla and SBET and so forth. But by and large, they prefer safety with these type of plays. And the safest place and position is behind a figurehead like Tom Lee, and the sizing, that it's a massive entity rather than something smaller and more speculative. And so some of these are tremendously undervalued. And that doesn't mean that they're going to be dead in the water. If Ethereum does anywhere near what Tom Lee expects, everybody's going to do well. But I think just because of their ability to trade at an overvalued premium, which again, it's like the opposite of what you normally would do for a stock, that allows them to raise more capital and buy more Ethereum. And it's just a snowball effect. It gets stronger. As they do that efficiently, more and more people look at what BMNR does and they say, oh, I want in that, which again pushes the share price higher as well. Sounds like a Ponzi scheme. It's not, though. So,
yeah, and as we're comparing different names, I also wanted to, bring up this comment. I mean, I know it's meant to be tongue in cheek with Tom Lee as a moat, but like at the end of the day, like who is the spokesperson of these other names? Because when you have so many different companies that are doing fundamentally very similar things, you need some type of differentiating factor, right? It's like almost like crypto miners, right? Like what is the difference between CleanSpark or Marathon or Riot or any of these? Maybe they have slight differences in their strategy, but by and large, it's like, what are they doing that's different? How do they differentiate themselves? What is their moat? And I think in the case of BMNR, like, yeah, sure, this might have been meant as a tongue-in-cheek comment, but like Tom Lee is a moat because of that networking aspect of putting BMNR first and foremost. I mean, we can talk about the investment that they made in the Dan Ives company as well. I forget what it's called, the 8Co or whatever that's called. But basically, my point is if there's no unique product to differentiate this company, then you must look elsewhere for differentiation. I can differentiate the product experience of, let's say, SoFi versus Robinhood because I can physically see and touch and interact with their products. What's BMNR's product? Versus any of these other companies. Well, there's no strong differentiation there, so I have to look elsewhere to differentiate. And sometimes it is something as trivial as like, hey, who is the spokesperson? Who is the main networker? Who is the main maven to basically connect other people to push one versus the other?
So yeah, throw this up if you don't mind. This is the chairman of SBET, and this is a good one as well. Joseph Lubin, he's a co-founder of Ethereum. But I would argue that Tom Lee is another level. Now, the reason why I would say that is if you're in crypto, you know who this is. If you're not in crypto, you don't know who this is. That's why there's so many non-crypto people that are flocking towards BMNR and not so much SBET. I think SBET, if I was going to pick like three, and I'm probably wrong on this, it would be BMNR, SBET, and ETHZilla, but I don't know for sure. Could be many more winners than that. Maybe everybody wins. Who knows? But yeah, Tom Lee is far better known and has far more exposure out there than Joseph Lubin. But this is also a very good chairperson too. So we're not denigrating or slouching on others, but yeah, Tom Lee, like there's no equal to him right now, especially in the middle of a bull market. And he just has that way of communicating that retail really gets, but also he's positioned well enough with institutions that they understand that as well, where they're going. The strategy, by the way, and the layout, the communication with some of these, SBET does a good job. Actually, they're very transparent. And one thing that I do like is when they give their updates, they give their share count, so you actually know where they've been diluting. I don't think that they've been doing that nearly as efficiently as BMNR. But the one thing I'll say about BMNR is I wish, and you can push back on me. I actually, some people did in the comments, that when they gave these weekly updates and they said this is where we're at, they'd also give the share count as well, because otherwise we're just guessing on the MNAV, just speculating based on past history, which we can get fairly close. But other people saw that as a weakness, and they said you don't want to give information away like that, that you want to hold that close to the vest and just disclose that around quarterly filings. What do you think?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so SBET, when they do their updates,
oh yeah,
yeah, so they're sharing share count BMNR does not, and it seems like they don't have to. They're not required to. I just, as an investor, I prefer transparency. This isn't a reason to get out of BMNR. It doesn't cause me concern at all. It would be easier to see where they were at and how efficient that they were at taking advantage of their MNAV and dilution. So their capital raises, rather, I should probably say, instead of dilution. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Are you back?
Yeah, can you? I didn't go anywhere. I think that was on your end.
Yeah, it might have been on my end. I don't know anything about SBET, to be honest with you. I haven't looked at any of the other options. And I'll tell you why, because I don't necessarily want to be in this space in a very heavy way. If I were to draw a scale of what is a long-term buy and hold for me versus what is a short-term trade, I would say that BMNR sits more on the trade side of things. Not as heavy on the trade side of things as like UNH sat with me, but it definitely skews to that side of the scale. And so as a result of that, I'm not really looking at other horses because I don't want to go full degen mode. I just want to pick one to ride that sort of macro wave or that momentum. And I think that in this period in the market, that all of them will win. I don't know who the winner is going to end up being in a time frame that's longer than 6 months,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Can you throw up SG Kumar's comment at 6:43? Actually, you're a different time zone, so.
Yeah, 6:43.
Yeah, he says, "What's the concern with holding BMNR for the long term?" So I'm still weighing this option. It's my swing portfolio. I've been. Oh, actually, before I comment on this, the other reason why I'm not just pure Ethereum and I'm in BMNR is the premiums are ridiculous. Like you've said, that's what data-driven investing. Chris had argued in the after hours. Some people have mentioned that in the comments too. They're very lucrative. Premiums on Ethereum. I mean, you can on some sites lend your Ethereum, but you're not getting the premium like that. Now, there's a reason for it. It's very volatile. Like today, we saw massive swings up and down. You're going to see that on a weekly basis. We may see below 40 again, in the next 2 weeks. We may see 75 again in the next 2 weeks. It's that volatile. It makes HIMS look like a sleepy stock. So that's the other reason why I'm like, hey, I can make some money off this. I've been using premiums actually just at this point to buy more BMNR shares directly. Probably in the future, I'll start adding to my Ethereum using the premiums as well. So the concern here is if we have a crypto winter, leverage bets, no matter what they are, including BMNR, which is a leverage bet on Ethereum, they will underperform the broader market. And so there's more risk with something like BMNR than with just holding Ethereum directly. And if BMNR starts trading well under its NAV, which happens, like it happened to MicroStrategy in the previous cycle where it was trading well under its NAV, you cannot efficiently do capital raises or it's dilutive. Now, that didn't stop Michael Saylor because he's like, hey, Bitcoin is going up. I'm just going to do it. Maybe BMNR pivots and changes that, but that's not what they've said to this point. So I think that would disappoint some shareholders. But if that's the case, then they just kind of have to wait for Ethereum to go up and do very little other than the little bit that they have with the yield. They do have some cash, so they could buy back some of their stock. But that's the risk right there is if we have crypto winter, it's going to underperform.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch of risks. Like if you were to say, okay, from 0 to 10, what is the risk profile of this play? It would probably be, I don't know, maybe a 7 or maybe an 8, right? Whereas like SoFi for me would be like a 2.
Even here?
Yes.
Near all-time highs? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Dude, I bought it at $26.
And that's a nice thing. Like SoFi, like it has cyclical elements in its business. By the way, congratulations, other SoFi shareholders were within another good day of hitting an all-time high. So that's a pretty good opportunity cost. I like when my opportunity costs go up more than 300% in a year. But give me more opportunity costs like that. But yeah, it's a real business. Like BMNR is too, but like the strategy is very much hinged on ability to capital raise, which if they have a crypto winter, they're hindered by, and the price of Ethereum, which again, that would be a hindrance versus SoFi. I mean, like, yeah, if we have a Great Recession 2.0, that's going to be bad for everything and everybody, especially SoFi too. But they are firing on all cylinders as a business. They're going to continue to prove. There are times when they'll grow slower. There are times when they'll grow faster. But yeah, even here at SoFi, if I didn't own so much of it, I'd be comfortable adding some. But it's my second largest position, so I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, it's I had since I'm just back home in Europe, and I had another aunt who now is wanting to invest. I've told you guys all stories about the other aunt who I got into SoFi and HIMS, and so this new one, she wanted to invest, and I was like, "Look, what's your risk profile?" And I said 1 to 10, and she went on the higher end, and so I bought her a bunch of Nebius, you know, and like that
Oh,
was the main stock that I bought. I was like, "Look, I can buy you SoFi." And
yeah.
SoFi is going to maybe double, maybe go up 2.5x over the next several years. I could see SoFi at $50 in, 2 years. But she was like, "Hey, no, I'm okay with stomach a little bit more risk. I want high return." I was like, "All right, well, I don't really want to put you in BMNR because I might be out of that in like 3 months, and I'm not going to be there to check on you." And so I just put her in some Nebius. And I said, "Look, I think this is going to be fine for you." Signed a massive deal with Microsoft, which I'm sure we can
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah.
And so like I think that's how I see it, right? Like your return is tethered to your risk that you take on. And
Yeah.
you could have stuff that has high risk, that has high return. You could have stuff that's super safe. You can just go into freaking Google and chill there for the next 10 years and you'll do fine. But you won't do as fine as if you were to go in like, Palantir, let's say, when, before AIP or whatever, in Robinhood, when it was still hated by retail, or in SoFi when the same banks were shorting it as the analysts were putting out, sell reports. Like my point is that everything is correlated, right?
Yeah. All right. Let's talk real quick, just maybe like 1 or 2 minutes on the Worldcoin, on the basically the direct purchase of that. Now, the way that Bitmine is structured, Batty had raised this point, is that they can technically own any asset. It's why they own Bitcoin. It's why they own Ethereum. It's why they own Worldcoin as well, which is a Sam Altman project. Of course, we know that that little project went up just ridiculously when they initially announced it. It's down actually quite a bit over the last 5 days, down about 38%. But we do see that massive pop up where it's trading in the 40s. What were your raw thoughts and reaction? And do you hope that Bitmine does more of this?
Man, look, I think that it's less so a merit of Bitmine, although like I should be giving them credit. So sure, obviously, but to me, how I interpreted this was the same way that I would interpret private investing, where you just get so much more. Like what did Tom Lee got? What 100x on his money or something ridiculous like that
Yeah.
in a week because he
Yeah.
had a connection and he invested leveraging that connection. Like cool. I don't have that option. You don't have that option. We have to slug it out over here for, 10% and 20%.
Yeah, and for me, I don't really like it's trading under orbs. By the way, if you guys are wondering, they did do a ticker change there. Um, that project just is weird. There is a need for KYC. There is a need for like verified users, and so you can use that Oculus scanner. It's very sci-fi and everything, but man, I don't know about the project itself. I'm okay with it. If they do like a whole bunch more of this, and I think this might have been a favor for Dan Ives as well, who's the chairperson over there, president. Uh, I would prefer them to be investing in what I deem is more real projects, but a little bit of this is fine. I don't mind it so much. Ethereum should be the main focus. It is the main focus. You can see that from their update. So I don't have a problem with it per se. But I do hope that they're able to take those gains at some point in the future. It may not, it probably won't be for like a year or so, but we'll see. All right, so we're nearing the hour mark, Tevis. We do want to probably do a quick HIMS update. I know some people are asking about PayPal in the comments. Maybe that'll be for the Q&A time. And there was one more that you mentioned that you wanted to talk about. Remind me.
Well, I don't. Let
Oh,
me.
Nebius.
Well, yeah, Nebius is one of them. I mean, Yeah, we can talk about Nebius, the Microsoft deal. I think HIMS we can talk about. We can also talk a little bit about SoFi. Ooh, next, that's going to be an interesting one. I'm going to try to get Matt to do an episode for us. I bought about 1,200 shares of Next today, and I have cash secured puts on it. I'm very excited about it. Cool. Let's start with HIMS.
All right. So probably the biggest piece of news with HIMS is pushback from FTA. There we go. I was like, it wasn't FTC. Let me throw this up. This is from HIMS House, so it just makes it easy to share. Pushing back on the Super Bowl commercial. Super Bowl commercial they spent a lot of money on. Sadly, right after that, of course, the shortage list ended for GLP-1s, which meant it probably wasn't as efficient use of a capital as we were hoping at that time. But in essence, the FDA chief, and usually you'd think that he'd be on the side of HIMS or something like HIMS, but I do understand that there's a need to protect intellectual property, but that's not what his issue was here. Basically, he said, within this commercial, they didn't list any GLP-1 side effects. He warned about pill culture there from online pharmacies like HIMS, and HIMS is probably the most well-known at this point of these, especially because of their advertising and marketing as well. Compounders argue that the FDA has no authority over the ad, and HIMS had no obligation to list the side effects. And so there may be a FTC versus an FDA challenge. What was your reaction to this? And do you think this is a concern for HIMS?
This is all freaking noise, man. This is all noise because I think Bank of America, who has like a $28 price target on HIMS, even came out and basically said that HIMS has a sufficient advantage where they can, basically weather this. I'm going to try to find it, but they basically said they had a brand buildup. I think the biggest piece of news for HIMS, where I thought you were going with this, was their testosterone launch.
That's there's one other piece of news beyond that, but yes.
So
let me just add on that note. Like, I don't think it's a huge concern here as far as a commercial. I think at most that'll be a slap on the wrist. That's not really the bear case or the bear thesis. The lawsuit from Novo Nordisk would be, which we've talked about before. I think that the risk is lessened. But yeah, testosterone launch was last week as well. There were hints of it. There was no official confirmation. Some said it's confirmed. Well, now it is officially confirmed and out there. This, of course, is a high demand product. They can leverage it with their in-home test systems as well to see where you're at exactly, what kind of product and what offering that they need to do specifically with that. How big is this and important is this for HIMS for the rest of the year and going forward as well?
Well, okay. So first of all, they have a lot riding on this because of their end of the year targets are very aggressive. Secondly, this was one of the two big product launches that they were guiding for the year. It was this and menopause, which I think is going to come out in October. Third, it unlocks a whole new target demographic for them.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting how they're launching it out. I mean, I've seen critiques where people are disappointed in this rollout because they would thought that they were going to have the full on branded the branded testosterone pills themselves, and they're doing half in 2026 and half of it now, and they're doing it through a partnership, and so there's obviously things there. But the other thing I'll say is that the main thing that I'll be looking for is, we know that GLP-1s was the fastest segment to ramp to 100 million, and I'm going to be using this to determine whether that was a one-off as a result of the popularity of GLP-1s, or whether that was an operational efficiency that they'd unlocked, and that all products should be held by the same standard going forward, not only the GLP-1 launch. And we're going to find that out very shortly. And if in fact this does become the new product to be the fastest to 100 million, that's going to be very bullish, because we can basically rule out that anything that they launch in the future, they're going to have higher take rate, higher adoption than the previous thing.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, quick shout out to Brock. Thank you for the gifted memberships on the channel. Congratulations for those that received that. We'll have FinTech Friday back and running, I think, with all three of us very soon. And so we'll start doing the after hour content. That's the only thing that you get extra from being a member. But as always, thank you guys for your support. So I agree with you that it is very important for them because they do have the slowdown in revenue. We talked about the slowing down of core revenue in the prior earnings. And of course, in the 10Q, they broke out the core growth versus the GLP-1 growth. And so we had a good read on that. And I really appreciate that transparency by the company. I'm not sure that they needed to release that, but they should have. And it was great that they did, even though they're not very good numbers at all. Now, let me throw up this here. This was a really interesting insight, too, showing not that HIMS is necessarily in trouble, but it really shows this shift in GLP-1s. May is when that shortage list impact actually hit them. It was announced earlier. And as a result, this is showing the traffic, basically, the global mobile app usage and website usage. It's a composite from ticker trends. And you can see it just fell off a cliff. Now, this doesn't mean that HIMS is going to die, but it is. I mean, this is a valid thing to be focused on. And it's not a nothing. Like, this is actually probably the most important, most relevant piece for HIMS. So really the question is, can testosterone change the trajectory of this? I'm not sure it can in the short term. There's a big hangover from the GLP-1 revenues. I think we might have another rough quarter or two. Now, they are launching and iterating a lot of interesting products. Of course, in Canada in January, they'll be launching into the GLP-1 semaglutide market directly because Novo Nordisk doesn't know how to file a patent claim. But nevertheless, short term, there is some bearishness with HIMS. It's one of the reasons why I was so happy to take a chunk of my HIMS position, which was all, I have some shares that I own and I'm careful with because I don't want them to go away. But I had a large amount of HIMS too in my swing portfolio because premiums are good. It's a company I don't mind holding. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to shift that over to BMNR. So, going back to the previous, does this concern you, Tevis?
A little bit, but I want to see the trend continue. I don't want to discount like some short-term thing. I think that, like something like Tesla, before I cut my position from whatever it was, 15% down to 8%, was 6 quarters of them having very rocky results. And the guidance was really not like great. It was like, oh, in 2 years, we're going to be great. And so I don't want to really cut a position like HIMS for 1 quarter where they miss revenue by single digit percentages.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get spooked out of not holding my shares, right? So it is concerning. I'm not going to, BS and say that it's not, but at the same time, it's not like going to make me sell out of my position or anything like that. I think that there's still a lot to look forward to. I also saw this, and maybe I'll share this. There's a whole bunch of HIMS news. Actually, I'll plug an account that I think is a great follow for HIMS news. So this account, Nurse Jerbear. Nurse Jerbear is I found this person last week, and it was pretty great. They do complete deep dives. So this is basically an event schedule for Dr. Jessica Shepard, which is HIMS chief medical officer, has 7 speaking engagements in October, and there's all of these hints that are pushing in the direction of them launching the second anticipated product of the year, which is of course menopause in October. Testosterone launched in September, and there's a whole bunch of different information, here as well on facilities that I was seeing. So this new facilities that they're expanding into, and like my point is that I'm trying to make is for every is that a myth? For every weak website traffic piece, there's like 3 or 4 different pieces of news. Like, and I also saw this, man. Don't forget, where are we? Yeah, here's the video. Pope Ron.
Yeah.
I also saw this around HIMS as well, right? Like here we go. Did you see this? Did you see this? This thing has 74 million shares sold short. Yeah. Like, you don't need everything to go right. You need a couple of things to go right and a couple of things to have been overblown and all of a sudden you're going to get this like short squeeze to whatever degree you get it. I don't know. But the point is like, I think we saw a healthy bottom in the mid 40s and it bounced back. Now it's in the mid 50s. And I think that it's setting up for larger moves because by and large, the market is over that revenue miss. And the people who wanted to sell on the back of that revenue miss and the back of that guidance, they already did that. And the people who are in with eyes wide open on what the company is and what the risks are. And so I think that you should take that all with a grain of salt. Like you're going to get inundated with information that if you make decisions based on one, piece of information alone, you get so many of them every given day that you're going to be like buying and selling this thing 20 times a day.
Yeah, and I think that I won't add too much to that other than just HIMS is a hold right here for me. It's not a buy. It's definitely not a sell. And I do 100% agree with you that oftentimes we can put way too much stock in a single quarter, um, especially when there's short-term sugar rush headwinds or rather tailwinds from something like the GLP-1 stuff. So I'm not reading too much into that, but I'm keeping an eye on it. So we'll have to see how they do over the next couple of quarters. And I think that this is not a weight loss play. Instead, it's a data play. It's med match there is very important. The personalization, the moat. Can they continue to deliver new innovative products, or at the very least, very competitive products that give access to a lot of people? And by the way, I met somebody that had been using a HIMS product. They were a fairly new user, and were very pleased with how easy it was, how everything was shipped. It was very clean, very simple. The support was great. And the actual effectiveness of the product, it was working for them. So to the extent that I might actually try out that HIMS oral solution, I could stand to lose, 25, 30 pounds. So GLP-1s have a lot of risk in them. And I'm like, I don't know that I want to do that. So versus oral solution, I'm like, I'm a shareholder. Maybe I'll give it a try. Who knows?
Yep. Anyways, shall we go into questions?
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Do you want to go into questions?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. I can tell that my internet is just being buggy as heck. 2 more weeks and then I'll be probably back in my regular time zone.
From Vatican City, they just don't have very good internet. So he's there advising the Pope on what to buy as far as stocks.
Can you imagine, dude? I would spontaneously combust if I walked in that place.
Yeah, portfolio manager for the Vatican. There you go.
Yeah, definitely not. But just for Pope Ron.
Yeah.
Okay. Looking to hold BMNR long term or just a swing? I think right now I'm leaning towards just a swing for the reasons that we discussed.
Yeah. Probably swing, maybe a little bit long term. Long term I'll hold more Ethereum than BMNR.
Pope Leo says to come through. All right. Hi, Roy. Is this live session every Monday at 6 p.m.? No. Generally, we do this on Tuesdays. Mm-hmm. We're only doing it on Monday because I cannot make it tomorrow. So I appreciate Roy being flexible at this time. So generally, this is on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. I just joined. Did you all talk about SoFi already? You want to say a quick spiel on SoFi, 30 seconds?
I mean, and I think there's probably questions on rate cuts as well. Looks like that we are getting 1 rate cut. Most likely, that's what the odds are. CME FedWatch. 2, there is a chance, but I think Powell is usually pretty clear as far as forecasting what they are willing to do. And I haven't seen anything like so dramatic that would cause that odds to shift. We did have jobs reports that they had a lot of revisions, which really weren't that good. But yeah, I would be shocked if we don't at least get 1 rate cut. At the Robinhood Summit, there was I think the EVP of CME FedWatch, and he basically said if the market expects a rate cut, if it doesn't get a rate cut here, valuations are way too high and everything will tank. That's a paraphrase. So SoFi, of course, like every stock, benefits from a rate cut. Well, not every stock. Stocks do, companies don't necessarily. But for SoFi overall, like they as a company are hugely benefit from rate cuts as well. So the bigger and the more aggressive rate cuts that they get, honestly, the better off it is, unless there are emergency rate cuts and the economy's falling apart, which isn't the case here. So that's, I think, part of the pump. I think that if we get a single cut, SoFi may spike up a bit more, but I think this is a lot of front running of that, and I think that we might hit an all time high this week. So that's fun. Oh, one other thing. When we hit an all time high, if you're a newer investor, this is price discovery mode. All that means is people that are very much into technicals, I use them a little bit, but it's very selectively. They might use Fibonacci's or, Ichimoku clouds and things that I have no idea what in the world they are. I just have heard of them. Bollinger Bands, all that stuff to try to figure out where it's going to go. But it's largely unknown. And so be careful if it hits an all-time high with covered calls. Price and stocks can run dramatically, especially when there's a lot of tailwinds like there is for SoFi. We've seen it with Robinhood. We've seen it with Palantir. We've seen it with Nebius and so forth. And so just, it's not financial advice, but what I'm doing is I'm going to be a lot more careful with covered calls, to the extent that I might not even sell covered calls on SoFi for a bit once we establish that all-time high. So that's just what I'm doing.
I am currently not selling covered calls on SoFi because I lost 13 grand trying to buy back my covered calls. So not doing that one again.
Yeah. There is. I love selling options, but there's a risk no matter what you do in the market, especially with options.
Yeah. And guys, I have 20 questions that are bookmarked here. I promise I will get to your questions.
I'll go back.
Keep submitting them. It's gonna mostly be in chronological order, unless you're Josh and you drop $1,000, then you're getting questions coming first.
Well, yeah. I was going to say, Josh, we know him pretty well. He's a huge SoFi bull. So we'll answer his question now. He says 35 or 40 before year end. Either one I think is viable. It depends on the macro, of course. If things don't fall to pieces in the crypto and the equities market, I think either is reasonable. Now, I'm not betting on that, but we're going to smash the all-time high. So.
Yeah, I mean, my price target for SoFi was $28.50 for the end of the year. But granted, SoFi was like $12 when I made that price target. So if we get to 35, I'm happy to be wrong on that one. But I think 35 is more realistic than 40 by the end of the year. Okay. Do you think my $57 BMNR covered calls expiring on Friday are cooked? I don't want them to be called away.
So what I'll say to that, rather than saying yes or no, because it's very volatile. We don't know. Rate cuts, if we get 2, they're destroyed. I don't think we're getting 2. You need to know what your strategy is with BMNR. If you're will strategy, don't worry about whether they're cooked or not. Just, the next week, sell puts whatever the strike's at and go from there. If your goal is not premiums, I don't know when you sold these, but you need to be a lot more careful with how you sell them if you wanted to keep the position, because on a stock like this that is this volatile, the IV is very high for that reason. So figure out what your goals are, what your comfort level is, and then that way you don't have to sweat whether or not it's going to get called away.
All right, let me I think that's a good answer. Let me see if I can add a little bit of color. This is expiring this week, so you're gonna like the time decay is gonna be insane. And BMNR was down to like $53 or whatnot today. Like, why didn't you just sell it today? And I guarantee you would have been probably in profit, unless you got a horrible price. I would probably try to close out the position for a profit before rate cuts. That's like the safer side. And then you could also write some cash secured puts to create a strangle on it and use some of the premium there to close it out. Or quite frankly, I think that barring any massive volatile move, you can probably just roll it out because the premiums are so good and you get such a lucrative premium for the time value for BMNR that you can even roll it out to like, I don't know what your premiums is collected, but you could probably roll it out to like 63 or 64 like next week and be just fine, like have a net credit. So those are probably your 3 options that you have at your disposal there. I would have, like, if I was scared of losing the shares, I would have sold them or bought back the calls today. Granted, I'm in the same boat because I have $60 and those ones are expiring. Let me just check that for you real quick. Those ones are expiring on the 26th. So I have 2 weeks out, $60 calls. So I'm arguably in deeper shit than you are. And but I'm fine because I also have cash secured puts and I also have shares that I'm buying on the open market. So like um, I knew that going into my position, and I'm probably gonna still end up rolling it out. So
Yeah.
okay. Tevis, with Bitcoin, ETH, and BMNR, are you in for more than 25% of your portfolio? Let me check that for you. Bitcoin is 8%, BMNR is 3%, and ETH is about 2.5%. So no. What does that add up to? Like 13.5, 14%. So close, but no. Do y'all think plays like Nebius and Iron outperform NVIDIA? Thinking about selling my NVIDIA for Nebius. Ooh, I love this question. Roy, you want to go first?
Probably like for Nebius, Iron, I don't know nearly as well. I know what they do. Yeah, no opinion on that one. But I will say that there's more safety with NVIDIA, significantly so, and that's why I chose to invest in NVIDIA. For me, NVIDIA is like, an easy double, not necessarily like with stock, which I mean, frankly, it is from when I got in because of the April tariff stuff. But I have so many high beta names in my portfolio that I like that. I like volatility, but my position and my stocks are large enough as far as for portfolio. I don't need to have like extreme risk and, go all leaps or anything like that. That's crazy. And so I'm like, you know what? NVIDIA is an anchor stock in my portfolio. Nothing's guaranteed in the market, but I would be highly surprised if over the next 5 years, NVIDIA doesn't do quite well and outperforms the S&P 500. And that's all I'm asking for it. Versus Nebius, I mean, it could do much better, but if we also have an economic downturn, if they run into troubles as a business, and they are a new business, even though they were Yandex before, they are technically new. Who knows? There's a little more risk there, probably with Iran as well, but no opinion on that one.
Yeah, I'm in the same camp. I don't know anything about Iron, but so I'll compare Nebius and NVIDIA. NVIDIA will give you relative safety, but Nebius will give you like a higher return potentially. Not potentially, like for sure higher return because it's much, much smaller. The runway for growth is like they signed one freaking deal with Microsoft and it was like their entire market cap like quadrupled basically in terms of from a revenue perspective, right? Like 17 billion over 5 years, and they're doing what, like 650 million or something like this. Like it's just ridiculous off of one deal alone. So if you think of it from that perspective, that's why a lot of people were saying, well, Nebius at 90 is a bigger value play than Nebius at 60 or 70 because they had the Microsoft deal, which is so counterintuitive and crazy. But ultimately, like I bought more Nebius today. And I think I bought a bunch of Nebius today, actually. But so I would probably go into Nebius personally, but like you guys know my risk tolerance. Like that's just what I would do. Please don't blindly follow. Holding an NES bet or just BMNR? Just BMNR for me. I don't know, Roy.
Yeah, just BMNR. I really think it's the best of these. It's go back to the comments we had on why.
What is your percentage on crypto? I have some, but still not that measures like we have in stocks. There is no quarter reviews. So I just answered mine. I have 8% in Bitcoin and about 2.5% in ETH, and that's it. So about 10% of total port.
Yeah, 5 or 6% in crypto, and I'm not including BMNR in that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. What is your BMNR average? Let me check that for you right now. It is $45. $45.70 because I bought more today.
Ducks comment at 7:16 Eastern time. All the old heads just turned in their grave, hearing the NVIDIA as your anchor position. It's a dividend stock, sir. I don't know what you're talking about. So
Yeah, exactly.
the dividend's coming out. I'm going to be rich. So
Yeah. Yeah, because BMNR is a goat farm, not crypto, right, guys?
yes, exactly. That's right.
No exposure. Um, okay, hold on. Let me go back to the order of events. Any news on peptides or factory testing? Oral seems sketchy until results comes out. Free test isn't cut and dry, but home tests are exciting. Yeah, I mean, like the home test is more of a data play around them launching future products that are going to have a higher take rate as a result, right? Because like if you have a test from Roy and if you have a test for myself, then you know where the deficiencies lie. And as a result, you might launch a product that is applicable for both of us in the future because you now have that data whereas you didn't before. And so it's really an enabler of future products as opposed to something that like is going to move the needle for them from a revenue perspective.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know about the peptides or factory, any new news.
No.
We answered this. How much cash does BMNR have?
That was answered in the comments. So it's like 563 million. You can go on there.
So this is September 2nd, and they have
569 today. Here, I've got this. This is if you guys are in Bitmine or thinking about it as well, their webpage is really, really good. Tom Lee does monthly video updates, so follow those. And then Bitmine on X, which I'll throw up here. This is their actual official channel. So I believe it is.
Yeah, that is.
No, it is. Yeah. So they break down the unencumbered cash right there, 569 million.
So there you go. They have a lower amount of cash today than they had September 2nd. So they've been buying some stuff.
Yep.
Is HIMS a buy? I think so.
I mean, I think there's better opportunities out there right now. It's a hold for me. If I didn't own it at all, I would probably buy it with what I have. It's around a 5% weighting, actually less now. So a lot of my portfolio just has gone crazy. Air test systems and BMNR and I mean, like other than PayPal doesn't, but everything else has gone up. So HIMS is just kind of sitting there, but I'm fine with the weighting on it.
Yeah, I think if you don't have a position and if you have a long-term time horizon, I mean, it's a company that's executing. So obviously do your own homework, but like there's a reason why it is 8% of my portfolio.
Yeah.
Is Nebius still a buy? I mean, I bought it literally today.
Well, now, so it's too late now. You bought it. So
yeah, exactly.
No shares.
Oh, by the way, did you see Forbes? Do you know about this, Roy?
No, I don't.
Okay, so Forbes came out and they put a 2030 price target on HIMS. What do you think that number would be?
On Nebius, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, $300 a share.
$450 a share.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the demand is there for that product and what they do. Energy, the same thing. So sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting, but invested in Iron. Rumors are they're close to doing a deal similar to Nebius just did. I don't know anything about Iron.
Yeah, I don't know. Iron, originally was a Bitcoin miner. And I think we had this conversation like a year and a half ago where we're like, hey, just buy Bitcoin or buy a proxy like Robinhood, like Coinbase, and you'll probably outperform. Bitcoin miners are not real businesses unless they pivot. That's why they need to pivot, and some will do it successfully. And there's been some that have been successful pivots, especially as it relates to energy. So, but I don't know that company well enough to give any opinion on it. So,
yeah. June says, seeing if Roy's chat is more interesting than Tevis's is asleep over there. Yeah, I mean, look, funny enough, I think Roy has more people watching right now than I do, even though my channel is like 4 times or 3 times bigger. The YouTube algo is unforgiving, and I've been in Europe for like 3 weeks now, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that's a shock, but thank you guys.
What's your exit price on BMNR, Roy?
I don't really have one. I mean, there's a price where like, if BMNR went to like $500 a share tomorrow, I'd be like, okay, cool. What yacht am I buying? And also I'm selling all my BMNR. Yeah, no, I'd really just buy Ethereum. Since it's in my swing portfolio, I'm using the willing strategy. If you're not familiar with it, all it is selling covered calls. fairly aggressively and cash secured puts fairly aggressively as well. The goal is to make income from premiums. And I'm taking the premiums and putting them in mostly right now just into BMNR shares. I'll start putting it into Ethereum in the future. I also do have some vertical spreads, and so I do have specific prices on that. I think 55 was the call strike that I bought, and I can't remember what the highest strike was, but I sold that one because it was ridiculous premium on that. So, but yeah, I don't have an exit price per se. It's just basically if it looks like that we are going into crypto winter, that's when I'd look to actually start deleveraging that, and maybe I'll just add it into Ethereum at that point. We'll have to see what the conditions are like. But winter may not be for a little while. I think that we'll have one, but yeah, just wheeling. Wheel, WHEEL.
Yeah, as
the wheel
the
strategy.
stuff you put on a car. Did you spell it out, or do you want to spell it out?
Yeah, Rambler got it. So
you guys need to go out and you need to recruit a female co-host for Bootleg. I think that would be a good add to this pod. Yeah, I mean, Brock, if you have suggestions for us on who we can bring on, let us know.
Yeah, or you could just wear a wig, Tevis. I mean,
yeah, we could talk about it. Sure. Exit price on BMNR. Look, I think initially I'm just looking to get to that $100. I think that's going to be a nice round number. But I don't really. I think if Ethereum actually does a double like Tom Lee is expecting, this thing is going to go way past $100. Which
yeah. Like that's the thing. Like if Ethereum does what he's saying, every single one of these treasuries is going to do well. Not just BMNR. Like everybody wins in that scenario, except for people that are shorting it for some. I don't know why you would short these, but I mean, people do. So
yeah. What about other live streams? We do FinTech Fridays on Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Although I'm using Weave very conservatively there because I generally am in that show.
And at some point on that, we're going to have we always have great guests. Steve, I guess, is more of a guest than anything, but we have a really cool guest that I've met before, but I met him at the Robinhood Summit. You guys will recognize him, or most of you will, but he's excited to join us. We just have to figure out the date. And he may be a recurring guest every once in a while. So Tevis knows who it is.
Brock, I know you have the $100. It's not happening, brother. I don't need $100 that bad, thankfully. And Duck, I mean, conveniently went to your channel to say this because I don't think he dared say this on my channel.
So
it's fun doing live streams. I missed this.
Can you throw up the 726 comment B Martin? Remember when Amit got ditched for? So I wanted to actually mention this. So I went to the Robinhood Summit. There was 1,000 retail people invited. And I would say it's probably like 98% males. And it's not because Robinhood is like biased and not inviting females, because there were ladies there. Batty was in the comments here. She's a big BMNR supporter, great person, brilliant mind, and just very kind too. So
who is this? Just somebody in the community? Or?
Yeah, Batty. So she's very, she's a rarity because, sadly, a lot of women don't invest actively. It's, passive investments or index funds. Very few, I think, are active traders as well. I don't know that she's an active trader, but like the reality is, like in the financial world, it's hard to find ladies that are, into this for one, but it's also a huge asset if you do, because a lot of times, one of the advantages we have as far as retail is that real world experience, but that looks very different for men versus women. That women will know, like, as far as like, I had a swing bet in Lululemon, and probably if I was talking with more ladies, they'd be like, "What are you doing? Like, this is not fashionable. It's not the right time." Actually, I had two ladies in real life tell me that after I made that bet. And I was like, "Why didn't you tell me before?" So, but there are some brilliant women that are absolutely in that and into stocks just as much as we are. Huge assets, amazing minds, amazing people. I just wish there was more, especially for my daughter. She's the youngest of my three, 12 years old. And she may not like want to invest actively or anything like that. But I'd love for her to have those role models and examples beyond just me. I'm her dad. Like for her, it's like whatever. But yeah, I wish there was more in the community. And I know that we have a few ladies in the comments, so very grateful for you. And pass on what you're doing with other ladies. I think it's if you learn how to invest and figure out something that works for you, like that's just life changing. It really is. So.
Yeah, I'll get
Yeah.
I'd like Sarah Eisen on here. If you guys can get her, you guys
Yeah.
can watch me try to flirt with her for like 2 hours every single stream while I ignore anything that Roy's saying about finance.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't know if we really want to entertain adding a third member. I think it would need to be like the right third person.
Yeah. For sure.
But because I think we have a pretty good dynamic. But I
Yeah.
agree. I think different perspectives are always welcome. What's your plan for covered calls on SoFi? Yeah, I have a bunch of those expiring January 2026. So my plan is I kind of want to exercise them and just own more shares, but TBD on what ends up happening. I have $17 calls, I have $10 calls, and I have $15 calls, and I'm selling some of the 17s because they're up like ridiculous amounts. The $10 are up like 7x, and I want to take ownership of those. Like they have zero, like basically no time value left.
So this question's about covered calls specifically, Tevis.
Oh my gosh, sorry, I totally just read the calls part. What's your plan on covered calls? I have 27s expiring, 27 expiring January.
Enjoy the gains.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I don't know. I think it's gonna, to Josh's question earlier, it's gonna go to 35 by the end of the year. And if I seem groggy, guys, it's because it's 1:30 a.m. for me and I'm exhausted. So I apologize for that. But I don't like to do covered calls on SoFi anymore because I got burned a whole bunch of times and learned my lesson the hard way.
Can you throw this up real quick? You mentioned it's 1:30. It's actually 1:31 in Vatican City. So, and
yes, exactly.
you got that big meeting with the Pope tomorrow, so we don't want to keep him too late.
Exactly. He's in the chat too. He's keeping an eye on me.
Yeah, he's a degen.
Okay, let's see. When are we discussing Robinhood? I think we already did. We didn't talk about social, and we didn't talk about the new products.
I did want to ask you about Hedge Social. I think maybe because it is so late for you, maybe we'll save that. So I do have a show, by the way, a little bit later with Tanner and Amit, 9:30 Eastern time. Tech Bros Weekly used to be called Robinhood Weekly, but we kind of got a cease and desist type of thing. What seemed to be the trend of like, you can't use our name anymore, even though they really like us, they like the content. So we will for sure be talking about the Robinhood Summit. Yeah, Hood, what a company, generational, amazing summit. They are not just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see if things stick. There's a concrete strategy there, but not everything will work necessarily. But yeah, I think they're a great company. Very excited to be shareholder. It's my number one position. So
yeah. We need to make this happen. Pope Leo, Pope Roy podcast, like
that's
the Lex
right.
Fridman show, like a 3-hour show. And my son, you need to lower it. I sure do, Pope Leo. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, somebody said there's like a quad witching this Friday.
Yeah. So in essence, this is when a bunch of options expire at once. You have quarterlies, you have monthlies, you have weeklies as well, and one that I'm forgetting. And it adds volatility. Usually, institutions and market makers as well add to that. So not always the case, but a lot of people hype that up, and usually it's like a little bit more volatility, but it can become an Ivy crush type of event. So just kind of be aware of that.
Okay, continuing with the questions. What's the best? What's the best company to invest in right now in the market, Roy?
We can't answer that. Find companies you have strong convictions in, build your due diligence around that. The answer for you may be very different from me. Go back to our NVIDIA conversation before. My expectations are not like, hey, this is going to 10x over the next 10 years. It might, but it's a more conservative investment, and I have some that are more aggressive. Figure out your goals, figure out what works for you, and don't invest in something that you don't know or understand at all. You can know it a little bit and then do some due diligence after that. But know what you invest in. If you don't have time, there's nothing wrong with investing just in an index fund. The S&P 500 doubles on average every 7 years. If you're investing enough on a routine basis, you can retire quite nicely. You don't have to be able to buy a private island in the future. So,
Yeah, I agree 1,000%.
I'm glad you didn't just say SoFi. Okay, financial advice, bro. Come on.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Thoughts on PayPal? We don't want to be here all night. I have sleep to get to. Just kidding. Go ahead.
It should be rebranded PayPal right now. No, but seriously though, like they launched stuff. They just launched like the links. They talked about basically leveraging the peer-to-peer crypto as well. A lot of times these are things that are like, oh, these are little things, no big deal. PayPal has a lot of little things like that become accretive, that add up to a better platform, better user experience. They get more volume, more usage as well. There are some headwinds. One of those big ones is the de minimis going away as it relates to tariffs. Used to be under $800. You didn't have to pay any tariff fee or mess with that. So that is a bit of a headwind on branded specifically, especially because between the U.S. and China corridor, they do such volume. But nevertheless, there's expectations of absolutely nothing for PayPal as a company. Their top line growth will continue to accelerate through the end of the year as those intentional headwinds from Braintree go away. Advertising is launching. It's hard for the market to price that in because PayPal isn't guiding as far as expectations, but we do know Dr. Mark Graythrough is in charge of that, who grew the Uber business from nothing as far as advertising. Also did something similar on Amazon. Longer story there. But yeah, all that to say, incredibly low risk unless you perceive opportunity cost as a risk. It is a form of it. Massive buybacks. They'll have $5.5 billion of free cash flow over the next 2 quarters. And you look at their market cap, like it's just, if that doesn't change the market's mind on it, I don't know what will. But I do think that we're going to get a bit of a bid, at least by Q4 earnings, if not before. A lot of opportunity for them.
Do you see AI being bullish with how the future is going in the next 15 to 20 years?
Yes.
Yes. Next question. How much cash can you set aside the day after FOMC?
What? Don't understand the question. I have some cash, but a lot of it's in my swing portfolio. So
yes. Next question. What tool do you use to analyze your options? Because puts and spreads, do you think or swim? And am I having a stroke? What the fuck is this?
Not exactly. Let me actually see if I can pull this up. This is a 2-minute video, and it was one of the things that Robinhood showed, which I thought was really freaking cool. I'm a bit biased because I do know the engineer that debuted it, but let me see. Robinhood, in essence, like that event was so cool. Like they launched so many different products that'll get a lot of usage, and for me, like some of them, I'm not an active trader. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Somebody will use that. Let me share tab right here. Okay. So this is 1 minute, actually. They made all of these 1 minute presentations.
Somebody said bullish duo.
Well, there is the Duocon. I think I can't remember the name of it, but the event that they have.
Duocon's tomorrow. Duocon's tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Let me know if you can't hear this.
Y'all know simulated returns on mobile, and today we're taking it up a gear on Legend so you can see how your options play out across price, time, and now volatility. Let's take a look. All right, let's work with a call debit spread on SPY, one of our most traded underlyings. The order form shows us max profit and loss, but how does this do under different conditions? Check out the new simulated returns panel, inspired by mobile, built for the big screen. We can scrub to see P&L and Greek's update, or freeze to stress test time. Ooh, nice. Legend goes further. Now we can simulate volatility. Think a tweet moves markets. Let's dial IV up. Okay. Think it's overblown? Dial it back down. Either way, the power to forecast volatility is now in your hands. Want a different risk reward? We can change the strikes right in the order form with intact. Same strategy tuned in seconds. That's simulated returns on Legend rolling out today. Back to you, boss.
So yeah, if you're on Robinhood, no, Andrew's a great guy. I know him. I've talked to him a number of times. So, but yeah, they have so many ridiculously strong engineers there. But yeah, this is just like one of many things that they launched. But if you're using Robinhood, like it's a really good tool, really easy to use, very intuitive, like everything they do. So, highly recommend.
I mean, they definitely have great products, that's for sure.
Degen Tevis was salivating over that. So
I was like, oh man, I need to be able to use this. Okay, cool. So you use Legend. When you ask Emmanuel to come, I think he means he wants Manuel on the show to talk about Nebius, and he did a show with us talking about Nebius. It's on both of our channels. Yeah, very smart guy. When will the first two-seater robotaxi roll out?
In the next couple of years. Probably next year is the real answer. I think that they may be waiting, doing some tweaks on design until they have more regulatory approval, because they can't have a guy in the driver's seat or the passenger seat for those to even be an option. So next year, I'm guessing.
Yeah, within the next 2 years. When Hood Bank?
I believe that in the next couple of months that they'll actually launch that.
There you go. Are you owning or buying D local as Tanner is?
No, not at all. No, I mean it's largely a payment service provider. They do have a little bit more than that. They're positioned in Latin America, which there are some tailwinds. I think that they'll fine as a business, but I personally wouldn't want to be in a payment service provider, pure payment service provider, any more than a pure buy now, pay later play, even though those are catching a bid a lot more so than PayPal.
I can definitely reach out to Manuel for the local episode. That could be a really fun one, because I know he's talked about that. I know Jesse, Micro to Macro, has also talked about D local. I'm not sure if he's still in it or not.
And
but
Alejandro Chavez too.
Alejandro as well, yeah. Okay, cool.
Oh, 741. Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, let's talk about that, and then the LUFC Jody's too. Did you see this?
Oh, these are both the same question.
Yeah.
Whoa.
This is probably something that we'll talk more about on FinTech Friday, because it is a SoFi versus Robinhood type of thing. When I shared this, I'm like, hey, this is going to be great, and it's cool. It's not the tokenization thing that is like ridiculously amazing, but there may be some pushback from companies, which we saw, and regulators as well. This is a very established vehicle, but in essence, it's Robinhood saying, hey, we have a select portfolio. This would be Robinhood Ventures 1, meaning that there'll probably be future ones as well, where they have a very select portfolio that you can buy in. Usually the problem with these is pretty high fees, very low liquidity. So maybe you can exit once a quarter at most. And usually the returns are pretty underwhelming just because they invest in a bunch of junk. Not always the case, though. There's some good ones out there. Data-driven investing was saying that this is the same as what SoFi does. I actually think that's wrong on a number of fronts and a number of reasons. But this is more of an announcement. We actually don't know what the product is. We don't know the liquidity. We don't know the fees. So I'd say TBD. If it is what I think it is, then I'll probably use this as a vehicle to have access to some private market exposure.
Yeah, I mean, again, like Robinhood just keeps rolling stuff out, and yeah, very, very bullish. I feel underinvested because I am underinvested. What's on the cards for the next Hood event?
AI. So in December, they actually are doing a fourth event, which is interesting. we'd previously heard from Vlad that they're doing 3, and on Cheeky Pints on the with the Stripe founder, he had the great interview. That's worth your time, even if you're not a Robinhood investor, you don't care about Stripe, you don't care about investing. It's amazing. But that said, he mentioned 3 or 4 events. This one, I believe, is just an online one. But I mean, every time that they launch an event, they launch a lot of projects. They'll talk about Cortex for sure. They mentioned Cortex here a little bit. Previous event Cortex as well. There's a lot more they could do with Cortex and that Pluto acquisition that they have. So, but I have no idea. Well, a few possible ideas of what entails. We'll probably talk more on that on Tech Bros Weekly. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, indeed. When will I be invited to the next hood event? That should be the question. I don't know.
Honestly, yeah, you're an investor now.
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. They don't want this very deep level of analysis that I provide.
I mean, you're too smart and good looking. Like, you can have one or the other, but when you have both, it's just too much, dude. You need to tone it down.
Yeah,
that's why we need the wig there.
Smarter, more good looking, and I think I'm actually might be richer than Vlad at this point. So I get the intimidation factor.
And you're the financial advisor of the Pope, so I mean,
yes, and best friend, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to wrap this up because it's 2 a.m. and I'm like going to Lulu.
Let's wrap.
Abby asks, any thoughts on Oscar? No.
It's a good, not great play, I think, and I prefer great ones.
Did you see a Congress buy on HIMS? Yes, but it was like under $15,000, and so it's not really a big deal. Energy plays, I'm looking at Next. I don't know if LNG counts as energy to you, Jody, but if it does, then Next is something that I bought literally today.
Yeah, there's a number of solar companies that I'm considering. I think it might be a little bit too early for them, but we're at the point where data centers and AI are driving a lot of demand, and that'll eventually affect price too, even though those are usually priced a little bit different, supply and demand economics. Solar is the fastest thing that can actually scale as far as energy. A lot of the other things, like nuclear, is great. Takes forever, though, to build up. So we're behind where we need to be in energy and infrastructure. So I expect that there will be some softening, especially after midterms, towards green energy. So that might be the time, or a little bit before.
Yep. What about I don't know.
Uranium. Yeah.
What is it? Uranium?
Yeah, uranium. So I mean, nuclear. So yeah, it's run up a lot. I don't think it's played out necessarily, but I don't know that commodity very well. So,
are you worried about Russia? No more than I was for the last 2 years. So,
я думаю, что это очень интересное. Ну, я думаю, что это, no, I forget what war is. No, война в США и Россия.
Да, давай, привет.
Learn Russian now. That's all I'm saying. No, just kidding. I think it'll be okay. I hope it'll be okay.
That's low-key concerning and impressive that you just randomly live in Texas and know Russian, you sleeper cell.
That's right.
Who outperforms in the next 18 months? SoFi, Robinhood. It would not be Ron and Travis show without this question. What? Do you want to give price targets? I really don't.
I want to give price targets. I'll say SoFi. Tremendous tailwinds, and the risk of crypto winter probably means that the risk there's more opportunity for SoFi to run even from here. That said, I think both will do well. So, and they're my number 1 and number 2 positions. So,
yeah, I think they both will do very well, and I think SoFi is primed to do a double next year, or near double. I basically think they're going to hit their highest tranche of $45 in 2026 at some point or another. I don't necessarily know that Robinhood's going to go to like what 220, 230, whatever it would correspond to. But it for sure might. I don't know, man. Stop asking me hard questions. I think they're both going to do well. Yeah, Pope Leo can't tell if you're BSing or not. No, he actually speaks Russian, Pope Leo. It's Duolingo. Follow Duocon tomorrow.
Actually learned it in high school, but yeah.
I'm totally fried. Thank you, everybody. This has been an hour and 50 minutes of the Ron and Travis show, ad-free for your entertainment. Are my $75 covered calls on BMNR safe this week? Premium was insane last week, even at that price. I think they're pretty safe. Yeah.
Rate cuts might cause a pump, but yeah, you're probably okay. So
okay. Pokemon cards are sports betting. Sports betting, obviously, Josh. It's sports betting is Pokemon cards for actual adults. All right, like that's a hot take of the day. That's a Tevisism.
Steve is gonna slap you the next time he sees you.
I'm gonna get a call from Steve at 3 a.m. He's gonna be like, "Are you fucking serious right now?" Steve, leave me alone.
Anyways, guys, thank you for tuning in. It's always more fun doing this live for us. You guys really make this awesome. It's always good talking with Tevis, but having a whole community there, having your questions, having you guys make fun of Tevis, it's awesome. So thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, happy investing. До свидания.